The last rerun, especially, was marred by violence in some of the places like Kano and Benue, just to mention a few. The opposition party candidates in Kano actually described the elections as one of the most horrific elections ever. Do you agree with that assessment?
Well, I disagree with that saying, because before the rerun, he never mooted such statement and he never said such. And I wonder why you have to say that, because the election didn't go his way. I frankly agree that there was a spate of violence in some parts of the country during the rerun. Many of us condemn this. The APC totally condemn it. We are not known for violence. Rather, we are known for practical campaign using what we've been able to achieve as a party, as a people, and of course, driving it with programs that is embedded in our APC charter. And I believe that is why the people voted for APC. So if you talk about violence, then you should be looking towards the corridor of the security operatives and those who are heading the various security strata in the country. And if they fell short of expectation, then such people should be called to account for all of these misdeeds.
Yeah, well, part of the observations was the fact that there were a lot of disruptions by political thugs and hoodlums who hijacked the process and all this place, while the security agencies actually stood aloof. Doesn't that make them culpable?
But definitely, looking at what happened, like I said, they must be held accountable. I mean, how on earth would you have a security operative in uniform and thugs will be rampaging everywhere? Then there's a detractor somewhere that is not obeying the norms of the Nigerian Constitution, which provides that security operatives are saddled with the responsibility of protecting lives and property. So such people must be held accountable.
Considering the fact that your party is a ruling party, nobody has been called to account as far as this is concerned. Doesn't that call for concern?
I think,
what is your party actually doing?
That won't be fair. That won't be fair if you're saying that there are so many people within the party that are presently, facing the EFCC, and of course in the judiciary. The SGF is a simple example of such. So if you're saying that, then you're not being fair to what is happening in the country. All right.
Really, apart from the fact that there are disruptions of the election process, we also heard about harassments of not only observers, election observers, we also heard about harassments of even journalists themselves. And isn't that a cause of concern as far as the integrity of the process is concerned?
It's a cause for concern. And I think the security firmament of this country is due for overhauling. And if you're going to overhaul, you're talking about overhauling in totality. And it's rather unfortunate that this administration inherited all of this bandwagon from the past administration since 1999. And there's always a saying that you cannot throw away the bathwater and the baby together. So if you're going to overhaul, you're going to overhaul the general structure, starting from the men down to the officers. And if need be, it means that you are going to boot out all of those people. And if we do that, who handle the security structure that we have? So it's a big problem. You understand? It's a big problem in the hand of the administration, but they are working towards achieving a perfect order.
One of the other issues that was also, observed during the last supplementary elections was the fact that there were vote buying in some places. For example, we heard and we saw vote buying in Sokoto State, where some voters were given as much as between 10,000 to 15,000 to vote. I mean, when does this end?
Well, it is so saddening that we're having that in our society. But we must commend this administration for taking a bold step. For the first time in our political history, we are having an anti-graft agency be part of the electioneering process. You saw the EFCC there. And of course, you saw that people were arrested for the first time in our political history. And people have been charged to court. And we await the judgment from the court. So we should also encourage the administration for doing what is right. But again, it also tells us that we've lost a lot of our value system, good value system within the Nigerian framework. We never used to hear of that. The least we heard is that they will put something in the bread to make it look like pancake, and I mean bean cake and all of that. That we heard, we never saw. And if we also take it down to 1999, after you and I were part of those who fought for the enthronement of this democratic system that we're enjoying now, what we did practically was to go on the street, to campaign to people, producing leaflets and try to convince people on the need why you should vote for a particular candidate. And I think everybody must put our hands on deck, both the seller, the buyer, and the watcher, and the onlooker. So everybody must come together to condemn this thing in totality, because if we are not mindful of it, one day someone from outside the country can influence with funds to buy up the country. And by the time they buy up the leadership, that's second slavery.
Now, considering all these hydra-headed issues associated with the elections, it's one big question that we tend to ask is it time for us to review the electoral system, and what kind of electoral accountability framework does this country need at this time?
It is time for us to have a sovereign national conference. It is not just about the electoral system. It's about the Nigerian constitution. We must be bold enough to give birth to a people's constitution where all these issues will be discussed. If we look at the electoral issue alone, there are other several issues that are begging for attention. And I would not say the administration of Mr. Buhari is not doing well, but the Yoruba have a saying that when the tree fall on each other, it is the one at the top you remove first. Their main problem that we confront right now is the problem of infrastructure and security. As soon as we can combat that, then the next paramount issue is the Constitution. If we can do it pari passu, it would have been the best. But if we cannot, then we should be working towards having a people's constitution. Interesting.
Some have actually questioned the kind of, sovereign national conference we're talking about. From your perspective, what kind of restructuring does this country need? Is there a difference between restructuring this country and the call for a sovereign national conference?
Restructuring is just a subset of giving birth to a people's constitution. Everything you want to talk about in restructuring is part of the discourse that will give birth to a people's constitution. If you restructure and you don't embed it in the constitution, it's like 6 1/2 dozen. So you are still moving around in circles. I was opportune to be part of a process that was led by the mover of the Nigerian Independent, Chief Anthony Enaro of blessed memory, Dr. Beko Ransom Kuti of blessed memory, Professor Jadisola Akon, the OFR of blessed memory, and of course the living icon, Professor Wale Soyinka, and many of our nationalists. I was a mobilization officer of Pronaco, and I know we did a very hard work, credible work, that was aimed towards producing a people's constitution, which we did. We have a draft constitution. We came out with that at the end of the whole process that lasted for about 4 years or thereabout, and I still have a copy with me and all of that. But like I said, when trees fall on each other, it's the topmost that you remove first.
Interesting. Away from the supplementary elections, there's so much political maneuvering going at the National Assembly as far as the leadership of the 9th National Assembly is concerned. Yesterday, the national chairman of your party, Comrade Adams Oshiomhole, actually said that the party members must chair all committees in the federal legislature, and that they are not willing to, share power. What's your reaction to his statement?
I totally agree with him. A party has its program. The other party have their program. The government was voted for on the basis of the program of the APC. So if you do a mistake by sharing power with people that have divergent view of your program, then you are betraying the confidence that is bestowed on you by the people. And in doing that, basically you have robbed the people of their confidence in you. So to totally implement the program that you have promised to achieve, definitely you must leave no stone unturned. You must not leave any ounce of power to the opposition. Otherwise, they will come and poison the whole system.
Let's look at the principle of separation of powers. Doesn't that come to the fore in that regard? Your party, as we speak, actually control both houses, both the Senate and the House of Representatives. So what do you leave for the minority or the opposition party?
Like I said, the people voted on the basis of programs. And on the basis of that, we got the majority votes and the majority seats. So definitely, we must implement all of our programs. That is not to say that we will not look at some of the opinions of the minority. And if the opinions are meaningful, definitely we will embrace it.
All right, let's look at some of the permutations. For example, we have a female representative, Mrs. Nkiruka Onyeji-Ocha from Isikwatu and Umunechi Federal Constituency of Abia State, who is also eyeing the speakership of the House. And we also have Femi Gbajamiamila, who actually lost out in the last assembly. I mean, how does this come to play? Has the party endorsed Gbajamiamila for this top job?
Well, that's the beauty of democracy. You must understand that in the legislative arm of government is about lobbying. You have to lobby your way through. You have to talk to people. You cannot gag people and tell them not to aspire. It's totally wrong in a democratic setup. But what is important is that we must go through the full-fledged of lobbying and trying to sway people towards seeing the truism in what you're throwing up, and for them to also give you the backing, give you the support, and of course endorse you and vote for you to be a principal officer of the House. There is no crime about that. And of course, ranking also come to be. You know, there's a saying that the older the wine, the better its taste. So you cannot throw away the longevity of a legislator in the House that comes along with experience that is very needful. And of course, the right experience, which is embedded in Mr. Gbajamiamila, will help him to control the House and govern the House and lead his colleagues. This is a man that has been there in the trouble period of the House. This is a man that has been there when the House was really facing a lot of challenges, and they were able to midwife the processes along the storm, and the House did not crash. So you need someone of that temerity, of that brilliance, and of that competence as a majority leader in this outgoing House. His experience is very important and is very needful.
So you're saying now that the party, based on its zoning arrangement, has actually zoned the speakership of the House to the Southwest, while the Southeast is also in contention for this?
Well, if the party have done that, I've not really checked whether they have done that. But if it's what they
is that what you feel the party is going to do?
I've not checked, and I don't know. But if the party is going to do that, then I think they should be given a thumbs up. They would have looked at the pros and cons of the whole situation, regardless of geopolitical zoning, regardless of nationality. They are being more of nationalists, more Nigerian in nature. You understand, taking the country as a whole and wanting the best for the country.
But wouldn't it, I mean, look this way as if the East themselves are being marginalized as far as the leadership?
Nobody is marginalizing anybody. Remember, in this same country, Chief M.K. Abiola a Yoruba man, defeated Bashir Tofa in his own ward, in his own polling unit. Chief Emeka Abiola defeated Bashir Tofa in the north, in the east, in the south-south, and in the southwest. So it's about you building bridges and building friendship. It's not about a nationality cloak. We should not campaign along nationalism. Rather, we should look at competence for our country. That is not to say that we are going to jettison in carrying all of the structures of the country along. If we find an egghead in the most minute nationality corner of this country, then we should embrace it. What we need now in Nigeria is to put square pegs in square holes, regardless of zoning system.
Let's also look at the Senate presidency. Former Senate leader, Senator Ali Ndume, has also written the national chairman of the APC to inform him of his decision to run for office of the president of the Senate of the National Assembly. While we still had Senator Ahmed Lawan from Yobe, who had actually been the Senate majority leader. I mean, well, who do you propose is likely to...
Well, that's the beauty of democracy. That's the beauty of democracy. I wouldn't propose anything, but I will only advise that whatever the members of the National Assembly does, they should put country first. They should look at experience, and they should look at carryability. You understand? They should look at someone who can muster a lot of followership, somebody who commands respect, and somebody that has the knowledge and competence to lead the House, to make it work in tandem with the executive. Because if they can do that, even if there's any rancor, such rancor can be settled behind the curtains and not bring it to the public glare to the extent that it starts to create cracks. So they need to look very deeply at somebody who can do that. And I mean, it's a house full of brilliant people.
Consider the fact that it's quite evident now that the Senate presidency is being zoned to the southeast, I mean to the northeast, so excuse me, by the APC leadership. The big question is, if that happens, Adams Oshiomhole, in his speech yesterday, actually said they're working towards getting a consensus candidate, and there will be issues even at that. What will the party do in order to resolve those crises so as to prevent a repeat of what happened at the 8th Assembly?
Well, that's the beauty of democracy. There must be a platform for discussion. People must continue to discuss. You can't stop people from having their views, and you can't stop them from their aspiration. Now, within the context of discussion, if they reach a deadlock, they also reserve the right to put it into votes. We did that in the NANS. If you remember, I became a national PRO not because the West wanted me. If you remember that I had a lot of challenges from the West, and it was your union boss, led by you and many of you, regardless of the fact that Olo was also contesting for NANS president. And the Unilag union still endorsed me and voted for me there, regardless of their own student. So let the process throw up the leadership. And I think you should also look at gender. You should look at gender in order to carry the other gender along. So the party also must look within that framework so as to encourage the other gender, you understand, to participate more in politics.
Now, the 9th National Assembly and the task ahead of them seems to be an uphill task this time around, considering the fact that this, whatever the working relationship between the legislature and the executive must come to the fore. Now, how will this affect the next 4 years of President Muhammadu Buhari?
The next 4 years of President Buhari, I'm going to see it as a jet-pace working administration. Because those hurdles that they faced, particularly within the legislative arm of government, they are not going to face it this time around. They are going to have a robust system where discussions will be held where there will be a lot of harmonization within the party. It will strengthen our democracy, and it will speed up the rate of governance. Take, for example, the delay in budget approval and all of that will be a thing of the past. You are going to have a National Assembly that will be more bent towards ideological discourse and precepts. You're not going to have a National Assembly that will be talking about uniforms and all of those things, whether somebody wear uniform or not, and all of that. We are not going to have a National Assembly where holidaying will be the order of the day. We are going to have a working National Assembly that will be piloted by hard work.
Thank you very much, Comrade Ayo Adewale. We really appreciate your insightful analysis.
Thank you for having me.